I remember waking up on a dark October cold morning in 2014 to wake up to see the Japanese Grand Prix. Yes, it's on. Waking up at like 5:30 in the morning. It's when when you're younger, of course, you're thinking like, oh yeah, waking up for the Grand Prix, thinking it's like super early because obviously for school, you get up at like 7 a.m. or something like that. And this time you get up at like 5 p.m. or something crazy like that. And you're just buzzing with excitement. Like, yeah, of course, you the night before you was up late, excited for this. Like, yeah, Japanese Grand Prix or a Grand Prix generally is always exciting, especially when you're younger, when you're like 11 years old or something like that, which how old I was at the time. Switching on the TV, seeing how it's going, seeing that, oh, there's no formation lap. Well, what's happened? Because the typhoon has hit the track. And well, it's absolute monsoon conditions. It's horrible. There's rain everywhere, wet tyres, no one's risk even going to try the intermediates. Now, of course, going into this race, it was between the title, Hamilton and Rosberg, 4 points apart with 5 to go. So, it's all heating up. I'm rooting for Hamilton, still have Team LH 44, let's still go on, Lewis, 7th, 8th title, let's do it, mate. Come on, time's running out, you're getting old, hurry up. No, we do get going under the safety car on time, thankfully, but it doesn't last long, the race. Before the red flag's taken out, it's just too wet, and I'm sitting there paddling for about 20 minutes. I'm sitting there in disappointment, like, oh, come on, man. Really? Like, I've got up this early not to see the race. Of course, I was 11 years old, so I was like, of course, a bit annoyed with it. Ericsson and his caterer losing control at and going into the gravel, but he got a push by the marshals, so he kept going. So it was alright. Lots of drivers complaining about visibility, so from the start, it wasn't looking very good. Eventually, though, it did get going under a safety car start. And well, it was just incredible watching these little cars. Of course, back in 2014, it was like the new regulation year of like the turbo hybrid cars, extremely powerful, talky cars where all the power just goes through at once. Like, it's like a lot less grip than the V8 cars previously in the previous year of 2013, where they had a lot less downforce. The tyres were quite thin for the time. There's nowhere near as thick as they are today, especially the rear tyres. They're like bicycle tyres if you compare them. But no, it wasn't that much of a entertaining race. Not a lot really happened. Just eventually, like mid-20s, lap 20s to like 25 to 29, Hamilton and Rosberg had a great battle for the lead. With DRS DRS was enabled for a little bit in the race in the wet conditions, which was a bit odd. It was intermediate conditions. I had a little look at the highlights so we get like a refresher of it, and seeing like Hamilton and Rosberg battle again was incredible, But eventually Lewis did get past Nico with an incredible overtake, and obviously took the lead of the race, and Lewis would be 11 points ahead of Rosberg at the end of this race. So I'm happy with it. I'm not complaining. And of course, we know Lewis is a master in the wet conditions, and this is Hamilton heading towards peak Hamilton. So Nico was no match for him, really, if you really use hindsight, I think. And well, as we know, Lewis is a bit of a master in the wet. He began to pull away from Rosberg, and eventually the rain did get heavier. Another big cloud started to hit the track, and cars started struggling. Some drivers were spinning. Like Magnussen spun at turn 1. Vettel went straight over into the gravel at the S uphill section. So it was like, remember seeing that and thinking, oh, okay, the track's getting wet now, and thinking, yeah, Vettel's gone off. The year before in 2013, and all the 4 years before 2014, Vettel absolutely dominated. If you're old enough to know that, and yeah, you know how it was, like sort of how similar how Verstappen's doing nowadays, but probably on a smaller scale actually, to be fair, but still dominant nonetheless. Aquaplaning was a big problem, and it came to lap 40 at Dunlop curve. Coming into sector 2, Adrian Sutil lost control of his Sauber and went into the barrier, just simply aquaplaned off the track, couldn't do anything. Of course, a recovery tractor came onto the track under a safety car, bear in mind, and a few laps later, Bianchi also lost control at that same turn, went off the track, and of course, as you probably know the story, he went under the recovery tractor. And yeah, of course, that was a pretty nasty accident. He was unconscious at the scene. His roll hoop or airbox completely destroyed, gone. If you've seen photos of the aftermath of his car, then yeah, it's crunched up. It's barely, like, the roll hoop isn't there anymore. It's completely gone. I remember seeing his name drop on the timing screen, like the old classic timing screen. I do miss that slightly, but seeing it drop, I'm thinking, okay, something's happened to Bianchi. What's happened? We're not showing it, and commentators are saying there's been a big crash with Bianchi, like a really big one. I'm thinking, oh god, this ain't good. So they red flagged the race. All the cars going into the pits. They called it off for like lap 44. Fairly muted celebration on the podium, guys. Hamilton wins. Rosberg and Vettel alongside him on the podium. So what really happened was, oh, I mean, there's no onboard footage out there. I mean, I don't think you really want to see it. There's a video of the crash out there somewhere. Watch that at your own will or your own risk of whatever. If you want to see that, I'm fine, go ahead. But it is out there, you can find it. There's like a spectator's point of view of it. Jules lost control of his car on Donut curve at 132 miles an hour, which is pretty quick in those conditions. So he was obviously going up, he was already up the hill, peaking the hill at some point, and it probably hit a river of water and just straight aquaplaned off the track. And a mix of rain, aquaplaning, and bouncing across the gravel, you're not going to lose a lot of speed. 76 miles an hour, which is still pretty fast. That's a little over the motorway speed limit in the UK, so that is still pretty fast for a crash. And he was reported unconscious at the scene. You know, the marshals trying to communicate, nothing. Radio, nothing. You know, of course they'll try both. You see a big crash like that, being a marshal, you're thinking, oh, fucking hell, like, what's just happened here? He couldn't be airlifted to hospital as of the conditions, so the best they could do is take him on an ambulance after he was treated at the track for a bit, like, okay, take him to the medical centre. Then obviously he had to be taken to a hospital, which was 30 minutes away. 30 minutes drive. Take it to Yokkaichi. That's it. Yokkaichi Hospital, which, yeah, of course, was 30 minutes away. So that is quite a trek, you know, especially in the circumstances that we had here in Suzuka that day. And of course, we know this. He lost his life 9 months later in a coma the whole time in July of 2015. Now, Bianchi, even if he got out of the coma, which would have been great, like it said, it would have been a miracle at the time if he got out of it. Anyway, like even if he did, he would be like sort of the situation that Michael Schumacher's in at the moment, you know, where he's just I can't find a politically correct word for this. Serious brain trauma. Let's say that he would have had serious brain trauma, and yeah, that's it. His racing career would be flat out over. So that's that. This, of course, some questions always get raised when something like this happens. Say, would today, would it have the halo saved his life? I think not personally, because obviously he went into this big recovery tractor which weighs tons, and of course the halo is strong itself, but I think it would have just added to the problem. It would have been more matter hitting his head, so I think it would have done worse. I personally think so. Of course, this is why nowadays when we see like a super wet race, there's like wet tires everywhere. This is why we don't get like super extreme wet races anymore, because stuff like this happens, you know. When you look back, even like somewhat more recently, like Japan 2022, I think it was, they were just delaying starts. No one was going on the wet tyres, of course, because the intermediates are quicker. Recent times they're just cancelling like any sort of like heavy rain. It's not really like the cars, of course, like the safety has drastically improved. Even since 2014 with the Halo, you know, safety has improved a whole lot since just 2014 alone. You know, and even before that, like a huge more amount then. But it's not really the safety of the cars and like the track facilities. It's the conditions. It's the airlift and helicopter. Because like you can't, yeah, she'll take a driver to a hospital in an ambulance, but that could take 30 minutes, as it did with Bianchi. You know, say if you could have got airlifted to hospital in say 10 minutes, who knows? But that could have made a difference. Crucial 20 or so minutes, like difference it will have been. So that's what it's about. It's about taking that driver. If something does happen and the driver does get seriously injured, of course they need to be taken to hospital very quickly. Because obviously they haven't got like a proper on-site hospital on track. Sure, they have a medical centre at every race, but it's not like a proper like high-tech hospital. So that's been me with the probably the worst crash in modern F1 history. So drop a like, subscribe as well. I've returned. I've back from my hibernation. Let's call it that. Almost a year it's been. So yeah, I'm gonna make a full proper video on that. So take care, man. Bye bye.